Welcome to another episode. It's the second episode of the Dyno HC podcast. Is this the official podcast? It should be because we have the commish, we've got Sean, with the Excel expert. He's Cyborg, for those of you who don't know.
That's all you need. That's all you need.
Yeah, that's all you need. And we're going to review Division 2. But before we get to Division 2 and their draft selections, we want to ask the commission of questions. Commish, I got to ask you, really, I know, please tell us, how did you manage to go through 6 applicants and you picked Tom Cruise? Like, what was the thought process behind that? Like, was there like Kevin Spacey? Was there Bill Cosby? Like, were there like other actors involved, or was it just you like Tom Cruise, like you're a Top Gun guy?
Well, yeah, I recently saw Top Gun Maverick, and I almost selected O.J. Simpson, but haven't seen Top Gun Maverick recently. It's just nothing I could do.
Okay, fair enough. We want to talk about also the amount of trades that have gone so far. I've lost count. I think in the draft, do you know how much? What's the number right now of trades in total?
Yeah, the assistant commissioner, who will talk about his team in this video or podcast, excuse me. He told me today we're at 75 total trades since the league opened, I think, which was May 27th ish. And so we haven't had a calendar day pass without a trade. And I don't know if that's good or if we're just obsessed, but it's happened.
It could be both, right? It could be both. Like, it could be good and obsessed. I mean, like, it's what would you like to call this podcast? It's PPR or barring injury, because these are the two buzzwords that are coming right now.
I love barring injury.
Barring injury would be
pretty good.
It would be pretty
I
good.
support it.
Okay, we'll think about it. We'll
workshop that.
You love polls, Commish. We'll put out a poll and we'll see what people say. Yeah. We'll see what kind of reaction we get. You've made some trades today. This will be, obviously, this will be aired 2 weeks from now. But today you've made a trade. You robbed Cammy Who. Cammy Who was robbed today. I feel like you gave him Zonovan Knight. Who was the other one? The other Joker? What was the other guy? And
Tank Dell.
Tank Dell, yeah. Okay, and a couple of picks for Deebo Samuel.
Yeah.
And are you willing to admit that I persuaded you? I got those juices flowing that you wanted Deebo Samuel based on my analysis? No? Okay.
No. Truth of the matter is, I was trying to get Amari Cooper, and Amari Cooper would have actually cost me a first-round pick. And just through perusing veteran wide receivers, I found that Deebo would not cost me a first-round pick. And so that answer became pretty obvious. There's nothing that's not available for the right offer.
All right. But like, do you have any other questions for the commish, Sean? Like, basically, like what, like some of his favorite trades or something? I don't know. Like we discussed off recording.
Yeah. What do you think was one of the trades that surprised you the most? This is for both of you, that surprised you, that either a player you didn't think was going to get traded off of a team, or somebody that kind of shot up in a sense of, for example, like what I was at, the Alexander Madison trade, right? Like that was a big trade for the price of it. Like, I think that the losing Dalvin Cook, and as soon as he was cut, that raised that value of him, and somebody went after him and went and paid for him. So that kind of surprised me that it happened that quickly, at least for me.
I think for me, that probably the trade that sticks out in my mind the most was Travis Kelce. I mean, someone took Travis Kelce fairly early on for his age, and then so I just assumed they were in, and then traded him, I believe, to one of the teams we're going to talk about.
I feel this is becoming the mellow trade podcast because, again, like I had Travis Kelce. I picked Kelce, and I figured, you know what? I've got this old guy that I don't really like on a personal level. Like, I'm not at all into Travis Kelce and his, oh shucks, I'm an underdog, please support me. I'm like, it's bullshit. And I saw that someone had Mahomes, and I went to the owner. I'm like, listen, take Mahomes, give me some picks. Let's be done with it. And it was smooth, it was simple, it was clean. Unlike trading with Clyborg. I mean, Clyborg, you're a headache, Sean. You're a headache when it comes to trading. I'm sorry. I had to
It's a
say
battle. It's a battle.
it's
You got to
bad.
win, right? I'm going to demoralize you all before the season.
Okay. Speaking of demoralizing, shall we get into the teams here?
Yeah, if we're
let's
gonna
do
talk
it.
demoralizing, we should talk about Sean's team, but we'll talk to someone else first.
Let's do that. Yeah. Let's do that.
Oh,
We'll leave.
yes, yes.
This is Cameron's team, the Flightless Fighters. What do you think of the team name, Kamish, on this one? The Flightless Fighters. Like, what do you think of the name? Like,
I think of like a pack of emus or something.
Emus, yeah. Okay.
Like big birds
Yeah.
or something.
Big birds that fight. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's fair enough. So he's got he had the 8th pick overall. Patrick Mahomes taken first. Then he went Brees Hall. He got Travis Kelce from me at the 211. They didn't pick till the 4-2, which he decided to take Jordan Addison. Looking at this roster, Sean, what you make of it?
So yeah, when I was looking at this one, especially going through who were his later picks and who was in the beginning of the trades he's made, it's a little confusing to me. Because he's got basically the Chiefs stack, but his starting running backs are Brees Hall and Elijah Mitchell. Again, Brees Hall, if he's healthy, he's going to be great. But if he can't start, and then you have Elijah Mitchell, who is a backup and has been known to get hurt. He is young, but relatively gets hurt. His wide receivers are Chase Claypool, Hunter Renfrow, and Wan'Dale Robinson. They're not necessarily the number one guys on their team. So it doesn't seem like it seems like a lot of the points are going to come consistently from his stack. But then later in the draft, he's got just all rookies. I mean, he went straight rookies until the end, and a lot of them were tight ends. So I'm not completely sure what he's going for. But it seems like he might not know as well. But I'm looking forward to seeing what happens.
I did offer him Higgins for Brees Hall. I did offer him that trade, but like he did not want to give up Brees Hall that easily, and nothing else was interesting. But yeah, I think it would have been a bit of a steal, and I would have flipped Brees Hall for a couple of assets. That's what I would have done. I'm a serial trader. What can I say? But yeah, like this team does seem lacking in the wide receiver department. What do you make of it, Kamish? Like, what do you think he's trying to do here? What is Cameron trying to do with this roster construction?
I think he's just trying to ride Pat and Travis as far as they'll take him, because that seems to be really the vast majority of where his points are going to come from. And I mean, they're two great players, but Kelce you would think is a diminishing asset, and Pat. It's not like Pat's a couple years away from starting to be on that side of on the wrong side of 30, and you don't know how that's going to go. You assume he'll be good another 8 years, but who knows, right? I think trading away Addison was curious. I know he got Alexander Madison, which helps his running back room, but then his wide receiver one is who? It's Chase Claypool, Hunter Renfrow. Like, who is his wide receiver one? It's hard to really define. That's my main concern for me as a person who I build my dynasty teams through the wide receiver room. Like all of my dynasty teams, I try to really have great wide receiver room because they have the best staying power in terms of value. A bad running back year, they may never see the field again. Think of Todd Gurley or Le'Veon Bell, but wide receivers typically hold their value. So that's my main concern. I think he'll score points. Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Alexander Madison, Brees, not Bijan. Like he'll score some points. I just don't know if the value's there. Even if he traded away all of his primary assets, I just don't know if the value's there. And then somehow or another, he still managed to not have like any first round picks left. So
Yeah, he's got a
I
second.
don't know how he's going to restock his wide receiver room.
Yeah, he doesn't have much. He's got a second, 2/3, and a fourth for 24. He's got a second, a third, and fourth for 25. But he did trade away probably his best wide receiver for a running back. So he's heavily invested with the running backs. He traded Addison for Madison. And I hate how that rhymes, by the way. It's disgusting. But yeah, it's just that I like we're gonna move on to the second one in a bit. We're just gonna see if this is like a rebuild mode, or like I don't know what to make of this selection, because the next person drafted at number 15, and I'm looking at his roster right now. It's the more attractive roster, at least on paper. But we'll get to in a second. Commissioner, what do you think? Is this a rebuild for forever?
I don't even think this is rebuild, because of the assets that he has in their current state. I think this is more, I'm going to be middle of the pack the next 4 years.
Yeah. Okay. What about you, Sean?
Yeah, I think my assumption is that if something happens to one of Patrick Mahomes or Travis Kelce in the middle of the season, or even next year, he's going to sell them for the price that he can get and probably try to rebuild, considering all the rookies he has and where he's invested. But I'm not really sure how far that's going to take him. So this is a team that, again, surprises me, but I'm curious to see how it works out, because that stack is going to be a powerful kind of thorn in the side for some teams that might think that they're going to win.
I don't know. I mean, like, do you expect them to score enough points, Holmes and Kelsey combined, to get him a W against other teams?
I mean, it's a full point PPR and it's 6-point touchdowns for passing touchdowns. So, I mean, those two could very easily put up 80 points. So if he has Brees and Alexander Madison, it's not out of the realm of possibility, that he scores 120, 130 based on the back of 4 guys.
All right. Well, you've got him in the power rankings, Sean. I know you spent a lot of time on your power rankings. Would you like to give us the numbers of your power rankings?
Yeah. So he's, with his picks, he's 15. And then with just the players, he's 12. And that kind of reflects what we're thinking is like, he's more on the low end when it comes to a lot of his depth, but he has enough to make him float up into the, bottom third of the league. And so he could be higher than that, but I see him being around the middle. It's a very boom bust team to me.
So, Commish, what do we get if we end up in that position? Is there like a prize or something? Is there like a Happy Meal? What do we get?
I don't know. There is going to be some type of last place, something.
All right.
To be determined.
To be TBD. Moving on to the next one. It's RY1 Ryan or Ryan. I think it's Ryan. I presume it's Ryan.
Yeah.
He picked 15th overall and did a lot of trading, got a lot of future picks. He's got a lot of nice magic beans going on over there. He's got 2 firsts in the 24. He's got 2 firsts in the 25, 3 seconds in the 24, and 2/3 in the 24. So like he's stacked up. And look at his team. Number 1 pick, Jalen Hurts. We'll talk about that in a second, because that's an interesting selection. Then he picked in the 3rd round, Travis Etienne. 5th round, Cooper. 7th round, he had 3 picks: Cooks, and Jacoby Myers. I'm interested, Sean. What do you make of this roster construction, like these selections? It's pretty interesting.
It is an interesting start to a single QB dynasty startup. To be honest, I was trying to trade up to the 115 to get, because I had AJ Brown. I would have loved to have that long-term stack of AJ Brown and Hurts, but it didn't come out that way, and he took it, which I kind of feel happy, because I got the other quarterback that I wanted later, Stroud, but we'll go over that. But his room starting roster, with ETN, Dalvin Cook, and then Rashad Penny is his top 3 sort of running backs. One doesn't have a team right now. We don't know if he'll have a team maybe till the middle of the season. Rashad Penny is a perennially injured back. As explosive as he is, he's always injured. And ETN, he's on that borderline of an RB1, RB2. So I think his receivers will get targets considering where they're at. They won't necessarily be high producers. But I think this is a team that, to me, on paper, looks good. But I think every week he's going to look at it and be like, dang, I could have scored more points if they'd have gotten this. So
I agree. I just feel that like the star that shines for me besides Jalen Hurts is probably Amari Cooper. And I know, Commish, you said earlier that you wanted to trade for Amari Cooper. He's probably, like, it's weird to say it, but he's probably a sleeper. Like, he's probably one of those guys no one really looked at because he's on Cleveland and the Browns are struggling at quarterback with Watson. No one knows what Watson is going to be. But Amari Cooper definitely has the talent. I personally really like his game. I never selected him before because he was on the Cowboys. I'm a known anti-Cowboy guy. So I wanted him this year, but yeah, like, he didn't fall to me. Like, who do you see? Like, who do you like on this team, Commish, besides Cooper?
I think there's a lot of what I would just call upside plays in this team that I feel good about. Like, I know Rashad Penny is not the kind of guy you want to rely on, but in as deep a league as this is, it's a nice guy to take a shot at, because if he somehow is magically healthy, then that's a great flex play in our level. Tyler Boyd should be a reliable flex play. With all of Josh Jacobs' concerns, having Zamir White's not a bad shot in the dark, right? Probably my favorite pick is Trey McBride. He was the number 1 tight end in the last year's class. He's pretty well forgotten about, but he actually had a nice season for tight ends, and most tight ends don't actually produce until year 3. And so to have a decent year last year, to get him, I think he potentially got something really nice there pretty late in our draft.
All right. I mean, I don't know much about Trey McBride. He's with the Buccaneers, right?
the Cardinals.
No.
Cardinals? Yeah, I don't know much about him. I don't know anything about him. So Trey McBride is with the Cardinals. He's gonna get passes from Colt McCoy, is it? Or is it gonna be Murray? Or which one is it? Who's gonna be?
Well, I mean, he got Trey McBride late in the draft. And so you're talking about, he was one of the very last decent tight ends taken. And so you're looking at a player there. I think he was picked in the 9th round. And he, even with Zach Ertz in place, Trey McBride still had a respectable rookie season last year. So, presuming Zach Ertz ages out, McBride, like I said, was the number 1 tight end in his class last year as a rookie. There's a good chance that he could be a decent player. So I just look at this roster. I think that's got a shot. Considering starting tight end is Gerald Everett, I would feel pretty good about having McBride as my developmental tight end.
But let's get to the very important power rankings that Sean, I don't know, like, devised. I don't know how.
I toiled over these. No, they just put them in the system and they kind of popped out. But with his picks, he came out as number 9, and the players came out at 14. So, technically, that puts him below the last team we talked about, the Flightless Fighters. But again, going along with what the commission said, if his players get the opportunities, Tyler Boyd, Rondale Moore, Jacoby Myers, Brandon Cooks, Amari Cooper, if they get it's PPR, so they're kind of players who will catch the ball and get yards and kind of stack that up. So it's not out of the possibility for him to be up in the middle tier. And with Hurts, he has those boom games, so I wouldn't be surprised if he drops 40 every other week.
Yeah, and barring injury, like, he should be a candidate for playoff, maybe. Like, do you see him sneaking into that 8th, 7th spot, 6th spot? I'm asking the room.
I think it's possible. With some of his players, I think he needs ETN to work out. I have some concern about whether or not that will happen. He needs Dalvin Cook to get a good job, So I think it's possible for sure. But I think when I look at Rice team, I'm more in thinking about he's got 4 first-round picks in the next 2 drafts, and he's got 4 second-round picks in the next 2 drafts. So to me, this is a 2024 team that could be, in that upper half, in that upper echelon of quality teams. That's what I would look at this roster.
Let's move on to the third one. We're looking at Yamrin. That's Cam, for those of you who don't know. Yamrin obviously is a prominent speaker, contributor on the Discord group. So he had the 10th pick overall, and with his first selection, he picked Jalen Waddle. Then he went Devontae Smith, Stevenson in the 3rd round, Pierce in the 4th round, Rashad White in the 5th round. That broke my heart. Then he had 2 6th-round picks. He took Bateman and Kittle, and the 7th, Rashee Rice, and another rookie in the 8th, Rashawn Johnson. It's a pretty good squad. It's a pretty interesting, packed with punishment, But I'm confused about the team name. Do you have any background, Commissioner? Because you seem to know him on a personal level. Do you know why he named it Yamrin?
He's not very creative, and so all he could do is replace the first letter of the name.
Okay, that's it.
Yeah.
All the bashing you're doing.
I mean,
okay.
I've known Cam for. I've known Cam as a friend of mine for probably 6 years now, and so he's a pretty poor human. This is probably just his best effort.
Okay, fair enough. So what do you think of his team then? It's a pretty good team.
I love his team. He and I also play in another 20-team league that's not as active, and it's kind of partially what inspired me to start this league, because I love that league. I love the depth of that league, but it's just not active like it needs to be. And so it's kind of how we got to the rosters being the size that they are, the 9 teams we have in our league. And so he and I have had a lot of experience in that league. And so I think that's reflected in his draft. He knows that young wide receivers, young running backs are where your value is. And he's stacked up on it. He's got a bunch of young, talented receivers, young, talented running backs. The tight end position is important, but unless you have a really good one, it's not that important. The only thing I really knock this roster is he just waited too long on quarterback. And he tried to trade up a couple of different times to get quarterback. I know he wanted to trade up and get Tua, but I took him. He wanted to trade up and get Dak, but Dak was going, as those late quarterbacks were going off the board, he wanted to pick some up, but it didn't materialize for him. But I think this is the right strategy. I would rather be on this side of, let me just take my shot in the dark at quarterback, and I can get a couple, and I can always trade a first for one, somebody backup or whatever, and let's get young receivers, young running backs. So I'm a big fan of what he did here.
This is a win now team, right, Sean? This is like a win now roster.
Yeah, I think considering the quarterbacks he has, we don't know how long Goff's going to be in Detroit, even though they did pick up Hendon Hooker in the draft. And they're pass heavy if a QB is going to score most of the points on your team. But he has good young running backs and good wide receivers. So it's definitely, I see him as a playoff team. He took a couple players that I really wanted. Like Abanikanda fell to him because I took a couple players that I took a chance on, and I was hoping it would come back. And I wanted him just because of the pure talent. And Roshan, he got him right before Stevenson. I love Stevenson. Damian Pierce, he's got people who are going to produce if they're on the field, and most of them don't have any injury concerns. So this is definitely a team that people should be watching out for.
He made an emotional pick by taking Rashad White as his third RB. He went wide receiver with Waddle and Smith, then RB in a PPR league. He took the emotional decision in selecting Rashad White. I'm concerned that this might hurt him in the long run. And I know, like, if you're listening, Cameron, You know how much I like Rashad White too, and I've been trying to get him off you for quite some time. We can negotiate something if you're looking for a wide receiver. And I've got magic beans too. I've got some magic beans left. So like, just let me know. That's all right. But I do think that Rashad White, despite being like this third RB, could be the RB that puts the others to shame. I think this is probably the best running back from the three. Although Stevenson's proven, Pierce had a great season, but there's some concerns. I think White on the Buccaneers, he's on the Buccaneers, right? Just checking. Yeah, okay.
Everybody's on the Buccaneers.
So everyone I know knows on the Buccaneers, but no, I think Rashad White. I think he's a great runner, and he's got the keys to. He's going to be a third down back. So, and they're not going to pass that much with Baker and what's the other guy? Driscoll. What is his name? Trask.
Is it Driscoll?
Trask.
Trask.
Yeah.
Yeah. We don't even know who he is.
So like, let's see. Power rankings time, Sean. Big numbers here.
Yeah. So with the picks included, it puts him at 4, and with the players, he's at 6. So it's already just assuming that he's going to make it into the playoffs, even if we have 6 or 7. And I think what knocks his team in the player rankings is because he was QB, right? And we already pointed that out. So it's not that he couldn't have good play from Goff. I think last year Goff probably finished 12 or 13, and so we have 16 teams. So that puts him even ahead of 3 or 4 other guys in the league. So it's
but
again,
these are
decent
just
team.
This is your algorithm talking. Like, it's not what actually is happening. It's like basing on you
barring injury.
Barring injury.
Yeah.
Trademark. All right. We got to get the trademark finished, by the way. We need to get the barring injury trademark if you can. If you would like to, I don't know. So we're thinking he's one of the favorites to win this, Team Yamron.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that there's a favorite necessarily to win it, but he should be. I think he's a playoff contender.
Okay, so he's winning the division at least.
Not so if I have anything to say about it.
Yeah, well, let's see what you have to say about it. Let's look at your team, Clyborg. Great name, by the way. I approve. That's a good one. Maybe the best name of the division. I'm going to give you that award. Well done. Actually, if you could have some confetti in your video effects, that'd be great.
That's exactly what's going to happen.
Okay, great. Maybe a cannon that shoots confetti.
It's going to have cannons come up from the side.
Yeah, and an American flag. We want to, because you're American. We want to you represent
straight. Yeah, it's going to go full America.
Full America. Let's look at you. You had the 7th pick overall. You had AJ Brown as your first selection. You had 2 second-round picks, Jahmyr Gibbs and DK Metcalf. My God, it still hurt. It hurts till today. I was 1 pick away from picking Metcalf, and you swiped them or sniped them. Sorry, sniped them. That's the term. You sniped it from me. And then you went Hawkinson. You went TE in your 3rd, and then CJ Stroud as your 4th pick. This is insane. And then you didn't have a selection to the 8th round, and you chose Alan Lazard. Kamish, I want you to break down the roster. I want you to give a full lowdown of what Clyborg did here.
I think you got a lot of really great value early. Like AJ Brown, to me, would have been my number 3 or number 4 pick. Getting him at 107, I think, is just trading out to get Jahmyr Gibbs, I think, was a nice move, particularly at that point in the draft. There wasn't a lot of high-end running backs left by my count. I like DK Metcalf, but this is a really top-heavy team. So, I mean, you've got 5 really what should be good players. We obviously don't know about Stroud, but you feel good about Stroud, and you're kind of pushed into a corner with the amount of quarterbacks being drafted in our league at such an unbelievable rate that I think if you didn't take CJ Stroud, you're probably looking more like Yamron over there with whoever he had off the street that he got out of the gas station as his starting quarterback. So I don't have a problem with that. But after those 5, it was probably a couple of literal real world days before you picked again. It was a while. And the next guys you pick, I think there's some value there, but not home run hitters. Lazard, you're hoping he gives you maybe 700 yards this year. Chase Brown, he may never be anything at all. Who knows how that's going to work out with Mixon? Sky Moore was absolutely terrible last year. So, we'll see, right? The top of the team is beautiful. I love it. I think Geno Smith paired with CJ Stroud is a brilliant plan because it gives you some protection and some talent. But I do wonder that bottom half of the roster is, I think that's even you would say it's not exactly what you'd hope for.
Okay. Anyway, this is your moment. Your moment's coming in a second, Sean. I just want to point out the CJ Stroud pick. Did it influence you in taking Nico Collins in the 10th round? Like, was that in the back of your mind?
Yeah, I was looking at, trying to take one of those younger receivers that organization is trying to put together and around him. And Tank Dell, as much as I talked down about him, was who I was targeting until he was taken. And so I thought to myself, take the outside receiver. CJ can layer the ball and he's got good accuracy. So if they make a connection, he's going to be able to get yards.
So you prefer Alan Lazard over Rondale Moore?
So one of the things I prefer, and this is just my personal thing about my teams, even all my dynasty teams, I like big receivers. Lazard, Metcalf, and AJ Brown are some of the higher end zone target receivers. They're in the top 10, I think, in the league, and they all have the same quarterback from last year.
It's a good core, though. Like, this team has a really nice core. Not a lot of picks in the next draft, but that can always be changed with a couple of trades. But I think the core of this team is good.
I think visually it's pleasing to the eye, this team. Like, the names, they're not as aggressive as those from like, when I look at flightless fighters, I'm kind of put off by Chase Claypool, turned off by Hunter Renfrow, turned off by Mike Gesicki. I'm not excited to watch these players or want them to do well. But like Darius Slade in the 15th round, I'm like, yeah, like, I want to see this guy do well. I want to see him, and like, I'm excited about Khalil Shakir, even Isaiah McKenzie. Like, these are like some interesting prospects, and you picked them up at the later rounds. So, decent jobs, Sean. Whose dog is that? That's good.
That's probably mine.
Probably it's your dog. All right. You wanna give yourself your power rankings, Sean?
Yeah. So with my picks, yeah. With my picks, I came out 10th, and the players came out 7th. I think that's a stretch to put me at 7th. I think it's because I'm so top heavy with some of those elite players, especially TJ Hawkinson. Again, tight end falls off pretty quick. And if you can have somebody who can produce, I think where I lack is obviously the depth. And that I have accepted. And my sort of play on that when it came to the capture the draft was get young players. Then doesn't matter if I think they have talent, and if I think in a year or two they could be in a good position on a good offense, or at least put in the position, talent and opportunity always win out. So I'm just hoping that the talent I chose turns into opportunity, and the elite core that I have will hopefully still be there.
Well, for your sake, obviously, but I wish you nothing but destruction. So there you go. Are you a contender this year?
I'm the guy, as I've so duly said, is I'm the team who's going to annoy the good teams on weeks. I could be very annoying to a good team on a week when they think they're just going to get a good win. and their team doesn't do so well, and then my team comes out and scores 12 total touchdowns, it's going to be pretty annoying.
Yeah.
So that's the hope for this year.
Very annoying. So you're the pest of the league. That's what you're saying. Like you're
Yeah.
you're the mosquito flying at night when everyone's like sleeping, and like you're just buzzing in their ears, and you're flying away safely, sucking their blood.
Slowly, the iceberg.
Slowly. All right.
That's right.
It's time for a new segment on the show. It's where Kamish takes a crap on the roster. Kamish, you will pick one player from each roster, and you will basically designate them as crap. So that'll be just like a stamp that reads crap based on you, Kamish. You may pick any team and pick one from each team, please. Take your time.
I love this.
One player
Love
from
this.
each team. This is hard because one, I didn't prepare. All right, let's go in order. Chase Claypool.
Okay.
Let's go right there. Bad passing offense and a player who's proven to not succeed at a high level outside of his rookie season. So I'll go there. Right. This I actually like most of his team. Let's just stay with Russell Wilson.
I
I
knew
know
it.
there's a lot of hope
I knew it.
that Russ
I
will
knew
break
it.
out. Everyone's
knew it.
hoping. Everyone's kind of thinking, "Oh, he can't be that bad again, right?" Well, what if he just is? What if he just is?
Okay.
For Yamrin, it's got it to me personally. It's Rashad Bateman. I know there's a lot of hype around Rashad Bateman. I know there's a lot of like it's a former first-round receiver. This team should pass more, but that receiver room got a lot more crowded. He just had a steroid injection, I think, on a leg he's had surgery twice on. So I don't know. I feel like that's essential. That's danger zone for me.
Yeah.
Clyborg, I'd like to say his whole roster,
Yes.
but I'll go with Sky Moore.
Yeah.
Sky Moore seemed like there was a lot of potential. The offense is really exciting, but he was absolutely terrible last year, and the success rate on receivers who had a bad year one is minimal. So the odds are very much against him. I still like taking the shot. I mean, he's got the potential in a wide receiver room that's not good. And he was, I believe, a second-round pick going into sophomore year. Like, I'm hopeful, but the odds are that he's going to fail.
Thank you, Kamish. Based on what you said, I think it's fair that I should mention to Sean that, like, Kamish just took a shit on your player, dude. Like, you must feel really bad right now. I can make you feel just a little bit better. Second round pick, 2016 for Sky Moore. Right here, right now.
No way.
Okay, I think we've wasted enough time of everyone. That will do it.